Hello everyone, this is a compilation video of how to paint Garrosh from World of Warcraft. We will start the head with Mornfang Brown. Irrelevant to the primer you use, this step will warm up the color for the next few steps. Cover the brown with a couple of thin layers of scale 75's Mars Orange. Then a layer or two of Troll Slayer Orange top to bottom, targeting the most raised and flat areas of the head. Now that we have a nice base color for the head, we will focus on the teeth. All of them will be painted with Wraith Bone. The rings that adorn the teeth, as well as the nose and eyebrows, will be painted with Iron Hand Steel. The shading of the metallics will happen with the use of Nuln Oil. Once the shade has dried, we will go back to Iron Hand Steel and highlight the most flat areas of the metallics on all parts. The eyes will be painted with Corax White. In this tutorial, I will not paint the irises, but feel free to paint them on your own. Just like we did with the tattoos on the main body, we will use Rhinox Hide and paint Garrosh's lower face. Mistakes that happen to the skin will be later corrected. However, if you make a mistake on any other part, for example the teeth, fix them immediately. The tongue will be painted with Screamer Pink. Paint as much as your brush allows in order to avoid mistakes. Most of the tongue will not be visible anyways. Using Troll Slayer Orange, we will fix any mistakes that happen to the skin of the face, as well as give another layer to all areas that will hold our highlights. We will finish the piece by making a 1-to-1 mix of Troll Slayer Orange and Dawn Yellow. With it, we will highlight the face. If you wish, you can add details with pure Dawn Yellow. However, this is completely optional. We shall start from the Pauldrons. We will cover both pieces entirely with Wraith Bone. In case you have primed the pieces in black, you may need to do multiple layers to fully cover it. Cover the animal skull on the left pauldron as well. Follow the last step by bathing the pieces in Skeleton Horde contrast paint, which is diluted with Lamian Medium in a 2-to-1 ratio. For the left pauldron, also cover the skull. No mistakes can happen at this stage, so don't worry too much. After letting the contrast to dry for some time, we will start painting the metal parts of the pauldrons with Iron Hand Steel. Then we will shower our metallic with Nuln Oil in order to diminish the shining a bit. Taking our trusty dry brush and loading it with Wraith Bone, we will go over the main body of the pauldrons, giving them nice highlights. Continuing with the highlights, we will reuse Iron Hand Steel and paint the most raised metallic areas that the light would hit. Afterwards, we will take a little bit of Mornfang Brown and paint the leather straps that exist on the left pauldron around the skull. Finally and optionally, returning once more to Iron Hand Steel, we will paint the metallic ring which holds the leather straps together. Moving to the main body, we base it with Mornfang Brown. Whether you primed with black or white, or you made zenithal highlights, the brown will warm up the orange color we will use later. Therefore, we will achieve an orange skin color that is truer to the character. Keep in mind that all steps about the skin will also apply on the left hand. Cover the brown with a couple thin layers of Scale 75's Marsh Orange. Try to paint the model top to bottom in order to get some great brown shadows. Then a layer or two of Troll Slayer Orange, again top to bottom, targeting the most raised and flat areas of the upper body. At this time, you should have achieved a warm orange-brownish color, which is perfect for the next few steps. Using Rhinox hide, we shall start painting the tattoos. The model artist made a very good job at engraving them, so although a time-consuming task, it is easy. Do not worry too much about painting outside the lines in a few spots, as we will cover them with highlights later in this tutorial. Keeping the Rhinox hide, we will paint the leather straps which hold the Pauldrons to Garrosh's shoulders. Going back to Wraithbone, we will paint the teeth on the necklace as well as the ivory pieces on the left hand. Just like we did with the Pauldrons, we will cover all pieces painted in the previous step with Skeleton Horde. This time, do not dilute it in order to achieve a different effect than the Pauldrons. In order to highlight the teeth and ivory after the contrast has fully dried, we will reuse Wraithbone. Subsequently, we will use Pallid Witch Flesh in order to add details to all parts we highlighted in the previous step. Using once more Iron Hand Steel, we will paint the metallic part that is holding the necklace together. Do be careful not to paint over the done parts, as it will require to start over unless you can hide it under a highlight. Staying with Iron Hand Steel, we will also paint the metallic rim on the straps as well as some buttons that they have. To make your life easier, you can use the belly of the brass instead of the tip, which is more error-proof in this situation. We will shade the metallic parts of the main body exactly the same way we shaded the Pauldrons, with non-oil. After the shade has dried, we will reuse Iron Hand Steel and highlight the parts we previously painted. Target the areas that the light would most likely hit. Follow up the previous step by adding details of Stormhost Silver. The string that holds the necklace around Garrosh's neck will be painted with XV88. Although it is not an issue if you paint the skin, it would be really bad if you paint it over the necklace itself, so please be careful. We will go back to Troll Slayer Orange and start highlighting the skin. At this step, you can also cover mistakes done in previous steps. As always, be careful and try not to introduce any new mistakes. Mixing 1-to-1 Troll Slayer Orange and Dawn Yellow, we will add a second highlight to the skin. Go over the areas previously highlighted and cover them, however in a lesser space. Try to highlight the veins that are visible and in the light. Using pure Dawn Yellow, we will add details to the skin's highlights. Target only the highest areas and the veins. To finish the main body, we will use Marsh Orange and paint the nails. Last piece that remains is the right arm, which we will start from the armor plates, which will be painted with Corn Red. Afterwards, with Iron Hand Steel, we will paint the edges of the armor plates as well as the nails on top of some panels. Before painting the change, we will paint the glove itself with Rhinox hide. This is done so we don't overpaint any part of the metallic of the chains by mistake. Since we made sure that the chains will not be overpainted with brown, we will go back to Iron Hand Steel and paint them. In case of a mistake, fix it by applying the respective color. The gloves leather, as well as the panels we painted red, will be shaded with the use of Agrax Earthshade. The metallics, as usual, will be shaded with Nuln Oil. Try to avoid mixing the two shades, although in the recesses it may have a good effect. Going back to the Rhinox hide, we will start highlighting the glove. Areas like the knuckles are our target. A 1-to-1 mix of Rhinox hide and Dumble brown will provide the color we shall use for the second highlight on the glove. Go over the highlights, but try to cover less area. Then, with pure Dumble brown, we will add details on the highlights we did. Jumping back to Iron Hand Steel, it is time to highlight the metallics. The armor panel's edges, as well as the chains on either side of the glove, should be highlighted. With Corn Red, we will highlight a bit of the armor panels relatively close to the center. Do not paint over the Horde symbol, as we want it shaded. Mixing one portion of Evil Sun's Scarlet and one portion of Corn Red to make a midtone, we will add the second highlight to the armor panels. It should cover roughly 50% of the area of our previous highlight. Subsequently, we will add details to our highlights with pure Evil Sun's Scarlet. The final touches will be done to the chains and edges of the armor panels with Storm Host Silver. We will start from the main lower body. We shall give it a nice coverage with Rhinox hide. Using an airbrush is optional. Carefully, we will start applying Iron Hand Steel on the chains, the figureheads, as well as the edges of the belt. Do a second layer for maximum coverage. Iron Hand Steel will be used heavily in this tutorial, so do have it handy. Afterwards, once the metallic has dried fully, we will shade it with Nuln Oil. Even more carefully now, we will use Corn Red and paint around the metal head in the center of the belt. Mixing one portion of Rhinox hide and one portion of Dumble brown, we will start highlighting the pants. The stitches and raised areas are great targets. Subsequently, we will shade the pants with Agrax Earthshade. Pay attention not to paint over the chains at multiple areas. Reusing our mix, we will go once again over the highlight we did, and covering less area, we will re-highlight. With pure Dumble brown, we will add details on the highlights we just did. Reusing Iron Hand Steel, we will now go and highlight the metallics of the lower body. If any mistakes happened during the previous few steps, see if you can hide them under these highlights. Using Stormhost Silver, we will add details to the metallics we just did. And with this, the main lower body is done. Time to move to the boots. The first thing we will paint on the boots is the fur. Using Grey Seer, we will do 2 layers on the fur around the boots. Afterwards, we will shake our Apothecary White really good and paint over the grey. Do not let it overly pour around and in the recesses. With Corn Red, we will paint the middle part of the armor on the boots, both the part for the knees and the shins, as well as the one from the feet. With Rhinox Hide, we will paint the buck part of the boots, the part that exists behind the armor of the feet. This next part is the most time consuming. Using once more Iron Hand Steel, we will paint all the armor edges. This includes the armor for the knees, the shins and the feet, as well as the metallic heads and chains around the legs. Do not forget to paint the front part of the boots as well, since it's only metallic. Just like on the lower body, we will shade the metallics using Nuln Oil. Then, with Iron Hand Steel, we will highlight the boots on all areas we previously painted. Afterwards, using Stormhost Silver once more, we will add details to our highlights. Paying close attention to the details and with the use of Wraithbone, we will paint the tusks which adorn the boots. As with previous parts, be careful in order to avoid any mistakes. To shade the tusks and give them a more natural yellow-brownish color, we will use Skeleton Horde. Then, once the contrast has fully dried, we will go once more with Wraithbone and highlight any raised and flat areas on the tusks. Once done highlighting on both boots, we can start adding details on the tusks with Pallid Witch Flesh. All this time we did not paint the soles of the boots. Now it's a great time to do so. Using Black Templar, give the soles of both boots a nice layer. Continuing our work on highlights, we will go back to Grey Seer, this time with our dry brush. With it, we will dry brush the fur around the boots. Making a 1-to-1 mix of Corn Red and Evil Sun Scarlet, we will highlight the center of all areas that are painted red. Afterwards, with Pure Evil Sun Scarlet, we will go again for the red areas that are highlighted, covering a smaller area. We're going to start with the axis handle. We will base the non-metallic part with Mournfang Brown. 2 thin layers are better than 1 thick layer, so strive for it. Immediately after, mix a bit of Scrag Brown to your Mournfang, so that the end mix is roughly 1-to-1. With the mix, start to highlight the handle. Next, we will do details with pure Scrag Brown on the axis handle. The base of the X handle, as well as the small chain it has, will be painted with Lead Belcher. If you do not have Lead Belcher, you can paint it with Iron Hand Steel. Also, paint the small metallic area on the top part of the X handle. Wash the axe base with Nuln oil in order to give it nice shadows. Do not let the wash pull excessively in the recesses. Once the oil has dried, we will go over the area again with a lead belcher and give highlights to the base. With this step done, the handle is done and we can move to the head of the axe. With Iron Hand Steel, paint the entire axe head as well as the blade. On top of that, paint the edges of the metallic panels at the top part of the head as well as the nails on the back. Do not paint the skull at the back or the area around the nail. Changing metallic for a bit and going to Rune Lord brush, we will overlay the engraved area of the axe. Try to avoid mistakes, and if they happen, fix them as soon as possible. Moving to the panels at the top of the axe, we will base them with corn red. Do not paint the edges as we want them with metallic color. The skull in the back will be painted with Rune Fang Steel. Of course, if you do not have the color, it can also be done with Iron Hand Steel. I just wanted to differentiate it from the rest of the axe. Mixing Vallejo's metal medium with Morn Fang Brown, we will paint the area around the nails which exist in the back of the axe. I have not used any other metal medium apart from Vallejo's, so if you have any other from another company, use that. Now that the base is complete, it is time to shade. We will start from the silvery areas, which will be covered with Nuln oil. If a little bit of shade falls into the brassy areas, try to remove it with a dry brush. Ultimately, we want the shade to touch only the edges of the non-silver parts. For the brush in red-brown areas, we will use Agrax Earth Shade. Again, try to avoid mixing the shades in any place apart from the edges. Once a bit of time has passed and both shades have dried fully, we will start the highlighting process. Using Iron Hand Steel, we will paint close to the axis blade's edge, the top panel edges, as well as the middle part of the area surrounded by brass. Then, a second highlight with Stormhost Silver in the same areas but covering less. Also highlight the skull with Stormhost Silver. Going back to Rune Lord Brass, we will highlight the engraved area, trying as much as we can to avoid mistakes at this point, as they can be costly. On all areas that the light will directly hit on the brass painted parts, we'll get details of Canoptech alloy. With Mephiston Red, we will highlight the panels at the top of the axe. Try not to paint very close to the edges in order to have a nice transition from darker to lighter color. Then, with Evil Sun's Scarlet and covering half the area painted with Mephiston Red, we will add the second highlight to the panels. The results for the axe should be like this. With the axe done, we have a little bit of time to talk about this video sponsor, who just like my girlfriend does not exist, so we will move to the flag. The flag's cloth will be painted entirely with Black Templar. Even on black primer, Black Templar is amazing as it has a blue tint, so it shades itself amazingly. As the contrast paint dries, we will switch our focus on the flagpole. We will paint the entirety of it with Dryad bark. On the left arm there is a bit of the flagpole as well. We only need to paint the cloth, and for it I have used Nagaroth Night. It can actually be any color you like. Keep in mind that the cloth extends to the top part of the flag as well as the bottom, so paint those the same. By now the contrast should have dried. We will take a small dry brush and load it with Dark Reaper. With it, we will heavily dry brush the flag's cloth. Without cleaning our dry brush, we will load it with Thunderhawk Blue and go for a second dry brush pass. This time lightly, as we only want the most raised areas to be caught. Time to paint the symbol of the Horde. As it is always red, we will use Corn Red. The piece has the symbol engraved, so you know where the edges are. Do not paint outside the line no matter the cost. Another double shade will take place. With Agrax Earth Shade, we will shade the symbol as well as the flagpole. Simultaneously, we will shade the black area of the flag's cloth with non-oil in order to blend a bit the bluish colors we dry brushed. After letting both washes dry fully, we will go back to Corn Red. We will highlight the raised areas of the Horde symbol on the flag's cloth. Subsequently, we will mix Evil Sun's Scarlet to the Corn Red, roughly 1:1, and do a second highlight on the same areas as before. Then, only on the highest areas we will add details of pure Evil Sun's Scarlet. The small piece of cloth on the upper part of the flagpole can also be any color you want. I used Celestra Grey. Do not worry if you make any mistakes here, as we will fix them on the next step. Reusing Dryad bark, we will highlight the pole. If any mistakes happen on the previous step, you can cover them now by hiding them under the highlight. Finally, at the very top of the flagpole there is a small metallic part. We will paint it with Iron Hand Steel. Whether you want to shade it and highlight it is up to you. If you do want to do it, you can replicate the steps from the axe head. The results should look like this. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more tutorials. All colors used in this video are on your screen now. I was MiniatureUrsus. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.